Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Rahul Narvekar, the Speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly, has given his verdict. Surprise of surprises. His verdict has said that Eknath Shinde's party, which is effectively his own party, the Speaker's own party, that is the real Shiv Sena. That's the reason I said, little bit snarkily, surprise of surprises. So that verdict is done. Now that verdict will be challenged in Supreme Court, etc. So that process will go on, because this verdict also by the Speaker has come on orders of the Supreme Court. So the matter is there, the matter will go back there. That's the reason we are not talking too much about this order, because really, if you ask me, there isn't that much clutter to discuss there, because the Speaker had to take a call on which one is the real Sena, and we know the way the culture is right now, which way the Speaker will lean, and he's found his reasoning. You can always find a reasoning to say, to justify anything. So we can't be getting into an argument with that, because that is not the spirit of Cut The Clutter. You might see that in some opinion pieces, maybe even mine in the course of time, or maybe not, because I might have something more interesting to write about this week in national interest. But that is something that opinion writers will deal with. That's the reason I'm stepping away from the usual pattern of Cut The Clutter, of explaining the day's news to you and getting to you and bringing to you the story of the man behind all of this. Because what is the story here? What is the issue here? The issue here is, which is the real Shiv Sena? Which means, which is the real Shiv Sena, as in, who are the real legatees of Balasaheb Thackeray? Because Balasaheb Thackeray founded the Shiv Sena. Everybody is working in his name. In fact, that's the reason it's his initials, it's his name. That is the middle name of Uddhav Thackeray also. That is Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, right? Now, is the Sena led by him the real Sena, or is the Sena led by Eknath Shinde the real Sena? Which means, who are the real legatees of Balasaheb Thackeray? Uddhav, his son Uddhav, or Eknath Shinde, who was one of his followers and undoubtedly the popular king of Thane. That said, I'm taking you back to the personality whose legacy everybody is fighting for, and that's Balasaheb Thackeray. Now, I had some acquaintance with Balasaheb Thackeray. I've written about it. I've spoken about it. I also commented on him before we started knowing each other rather well, and that's why when he passed away, I wrote an obituary on him, a detailed obituary on him, which is also my insight into the character of a most fascinating man in Indian politics. Indian politics is so interesting. All politics anywhere in the world has its characters, and it doesn't just apply to democratic politics. Even dictators can be very interesting. Idi Amin was very interesting, right? Not like that, but dictatorships might produce one interesting person, two interesting persons, three. Mostly in a dictatorship, if there is more than one interesting person, that person ceases to exist soon enough or lands up in jail. So let's not go there. Democratic politics produces a lot more characters, and India's kind of democratic politics with so much diversity of ethnicity, language, caste, religion, etc., geography, that produces that many more characters. So if you look at all of that, if you look at the pantheon of all of them, I would say Balasaheb Thackeray was one of the most original and one of the most remarkable characters. Like him or not, whether you would vote for him or not, but he was there, and he was, for a journalist, he was a fascinating case study. That's the reason what I'm doing is I'm sharing with you now in video, on camera, my view on him, something that I wrote in 2012 when he passed away. And I had said then that Balasaheb Thackeray was India's only purely parochial leader. He was also his own brand manager, and a man deeply in love with himself. So how do we explain that? Let me give you my understanding of him and some experiences. And as you would have figured by now, in this episode of Cut The Clutter, I'm also doing a little bit of storytelling, as I occasionally do. Was Balasaheb Thackeray, for example, a mass leader or a mafioso? The truth is, you will find his followers and detractors only describe him in extremes. But both will agree on one thing, that as I said earlier, he was one of a kind and original. I learned how much of an original he was when, in a national interest article, almost 2 decades ago, I think somewhere around 2002, 2003, in one of those articles, I described him and his party as mafioso. In fact, I called him the most successful mafioso of Mumbai. My phone rang late that Saturday evening as I sat with my family at dinner in Ban Thai restaurant that was shut down in 2005 in the basement of New Delhi's Oberoi. It used to be our favorite Thai restaurant. Unfortunately, the Oberoi decided to shut it down. It was a call from Balasaheb Thackeray from Mumbai, I was told. The operator told me. I went out looking for better signal, and I also braced myself for a diatribe that now you've had it, Shekhar Gupta. You've angered Balasaheb Thackeray, because I knew what I had written that morning, and now I was going to get it in the neck, metaphorically speaking. But he instead was dripping charm. And he said, and I quote from that conversation, "Of all the people who abused me, Shekharji, you write most delightfully." Balasaheb said, "Thank you, Balasaheb." I said, I was relieved. "So what are you doing for me for abusing you so delightfully as you put it?" I said. I was also being cheeky now. He offered me the dinner the following Thursday at Matoshri in Mumbai, and he suggested I bring my wife along, and then asked if we were vegetarian or teetotalers. When I told him that we were neither, he warmed up again. "Aap Gupta hokar ye sab kuch karte hain?" he asked, sort of half mockingly and half sort of pulling my leg. And I responded to him, "Jab aap Thackeray hokar itna kuch kar sakte hain, to hum kyun nahi?" I said. We resumed that conversation at his home the following Thursday. Uddhav and his wife Rashmi in attendance, and their still small children, including Aaditya, who joined politics later and became a minister. They were still small children. They were playing in the family living room. That was almost about 18, 19 years ago. Also present was a party MP and loyalist, B.K. Desai, whose only contribution was to nod furiously in affirmation whenever Balasaheb spoke. Much of the conversation was on expected lines, until we asked, pointing at the framed picture of Michael Jackson on his wall, what he thought of him. And if he also thought his skin was peeling off from his face. That I don't know, Balasaheb said, but his eyes lit up as he told us his favorite Michael Jackson story. Michael Jackson, he said, was accompanied by a lady and several small children, and one of them asked where the toilet was. Said Balasaheb, pointing to the toilet door next to the living room. Then, according to him, one after the other, all the children went inside the toilet. Michael Jackson and the lady joined them. In fact, he said MJ and the lady joined them. Uske baad, he said, they bolted the door from inside and did not come out for half an hour. And then he asked, in what looked like genuine amazement, "So what do you think they were doing together inside?" Balasaheb speaking, not I. Everybody sniggered. Now, what was his fascination with rock and film stars and beauty queens? Why do all of India's Miss Worlds and Miss Universes have to visit him? I asked him, and he said again, "My daughters-in-law are more beautiful than any Miss Worlds," he said, dismissive of any suggestion of starry-eyedness on his part. But the fact is, his fixation with the glamour world was real and deeply political. He interfered more by strategic political design than compulsion of habit in cricket and cinema. Stars, including many Muslims, had to come to him for endorsement and, in a barely camouflaged manner, for protection. If Mumbai was the capital of Indian popular culture, from cinema to cricket, fashion to television, Balasaheb understood first and better than any of his rivals its value as a political force multiplier. Each time he threatened to ban a film, a star or a cricket match, or whenever a star of some kind visited him, he was guaranteed two things. One, instant headlines and cameras, and second, a perception of power overriding all legal and constitutional authorities. If an MJ concert could only be held in Mumbai with his approval, MJ had no choice but to visit him at his home, drawing an armada of OB-vans, and if his Munimjis then nudged the organizers of any such event for a little consideration, Chanda, would anybody dare to say no? And would anybody dare to call this extortion or Balasaheb a mafioso? He used the pusillanimity of both the Congress governments as well as the showbiz to build his image of the real ruler of Mumbai, though never elected. The framed picture with MJ displayed right behind his tiger skin throne was his most valuable trophy. And he told you that the richest, the most famous stars of the world had to salam him to perform in Mumbai. Such was his power over his party and so mercurial his ideology that he could demand summary death sentences for all the 1993 serial blasts accused, while at the same time pleading the cause of Sanjay Dutt, a half Muslim, because that was the power of Balasaheb Thackeray. He did it not so much because he thought Sanjay was innocent or his father Sunil Dutt was his friend or because he wanted to burnish any secular credentials. He did it precisely because both were famous and Sunil Dutt, the father Sunil Dutt, a prominent congressman already. If a powerful and popular congressman from the city, when Congress was in power, powerful congressman from the city, in fact a central minister, had to seek mercy from his star son from you, it again guaranteed both publicity and a notion of unparalleled power. People can call you a don, a mafioso, a sarkar, as portrayed by Senior Bachchan in Ram Gopal Verma's 2005 film of the same name, but its power you can monetize for votes, cash, or both. In fact, even for sympathy and grief. Remember how sad and grief-stricken Bollywood stars looked like at his funeral? They knew Balasaheb's offspring would perpetuate his dynasty. Important point now. So why not perform once again for the cameras? Faking it is their avocation after all. You can fake it on camera for screen. You can fake it also at Balasaheb's funeral. All of this is important now because his legacy was so important, and that is the legacy which is now in question because there are two claimants to it. One is the set of his children and grandchildren, and the other set is people from his party who left his party, went away, and now claim that they are the real parties. So ultimately the fight is about the legacy of that one man. Then we go on with our project of trying to understand Balasaheb Thackeray, the man who set up this incredible political organization called the Shiv Sena. Just as he mastered the use of popular culture as a key for his control of Mumbai, he also understood the power of the media, particularly in a mostly literate city. Bombay बहुत पढ़ा लिखा शहर है. It's a very literate city. And he understood the power of the media there, including and especially the Marathi media there. He built his party and dynasty. For both of them, a newspaper called Samna, a Marathi newspaper, and spoke through its editorials. Samna was his party organ much more than even Ganashakti has been the CPIM's party organ in Bengal. He probably picked up the idea of a Dashera address at Shivaji Park, almost the only time he spoke in public, from the RSS Sarsanchalak, whom he routinely overshadowed in headlines those days, the next morning. No longer, no Shiv Sena chief after that has been able to overshadow the RSS chief over his Dashera address after that. Not definitely since the rise of the Modi government. Only as long as he was there. Not since he left as his successor or the other claimant to being his successor have been able to steal the headlines of Dashera Day away from the Sarsang Chalak. He was his own media manager and manipulator as well. He employed a combination of intimidation and charm, but did that sort of differentially. The goons routinely ransacked Marathi media offices and editors' homes while he poured his enormous personal charm on English journalists. He would have admonished me for being so ungracious, if not ungrateful for saying this, but that dinner invitation to me was probably evidence of his cynical, differential strategy of media management. He has been called many things, and more often a bundle of contradictions. But the description that fits his politics most of all was cynical. You would wonder sometimes if he really hated the non-Marathis, the Christians, the Muslims, even the Pakistanis as much as he pretended to. He would threaten to burn Mumbai if Pakistan played cricket there, and then be all Shrikhand and honey. Shrikhand is the Maharashtrian mithai as we know, and be all Shrikhand and honey When Javed Miandad came calling, remember Javed Miandad and Dawood Ibrahim's kids are married to each other. Either way, he got the headlines and reaffirmed his power. Probably a fairer description for him would be he used all his avowed hatreds and antagonisms as elements of his own brand building. In marketing terms, he was his own brand manager. In human terms, we can never be sure he really hated all the people he cursed and abused. You can be only sure of one thing. Like his film contemporary Devanand, he was a man deeply in love with himself. I renewed my acquaintance with Balasaheb several years after that dinner. Or rather, he did. Uddhav called me in January 2007, if I remember correctly, to say that Balasaheb had turned 80 and would like to give me a freewheeling interview, but wouldn't walk. Remember that show was called Walk the Talk. So he said he wouldn't walk, he'll just sit and talk. Balasaheb now took personal care to get the setting right. The tiger in the back, 2 glasses of white wine and the bottle too. All the props were there. You will see that picture on your screen. It's one of my favorite pictures of all times. As Uddhav had promised, he ducked no question, including on his then recently estranged nephew, Raj. What was the difference between him and Uddhav, he asked. All of this is on NDTV's Walk the Talk interview. You can check it out also on the NDTV website. I will also share the links with you. He said, what is the difference? What was the difference between Raj and Uddhav? And he said this with a sense of resignation. And I quote him again from that interview. He used to play in my lap, peeing and wetting me all the time. But if I have to choose one, then one is son and the other nephew. It was the only time he had shown some genuine emotion, and that emotion was for Uddhav. Once again, it's a relevant point to remember when his legacy is being contested. Balasaheb was back to normal in that conversation when we spoke of painter Hitler. We said Hitler was a painter. Lazy poet Vajpayee. All these are his descriptions. Muslims, Pakistanis, and so on. And corruption? I asked why he had Suresh Prabhu fired when he was so competent and honest. He said, you say he was honest? He asked, and then went on to recount a conversation with Pramod Mahajan on Prabhu refusing to make any quote-unquote contribution to his party, claiming he was making no money as power or environment ministries had no avenues for making any money. And then Balasaheb said, Pramod told me, he said, that if anybody in the cabinet, that is NDA's cabinet, claims that he is not able to make any money, he was either a liar or a moron. So why, he said, should I have either a thief or a moron as a central minister from my party? This, by the way, was entirely on the record, on camera. After this, I'm sure you won't ask me why I call cynicism the hallmark of his politics. Are you a mafioso? I asked again. And then he replied, and I quote again from that interview, I know you wrote this earlier too, but tell me something. If I was indeed a mafioso, you think you would have dared, and that emphasis on dared was his, you think you would have dared to come and speak like this to me? Style and strategies apart, there was one more thing that set Balasaheb apart from the political class in India. Even in a political pantheon filled with regional and ethnic leaders, he was the only one to be purely parochial. At a time when the Akalis were getting more Hindu MLAs elected than their partners BJP in Punjab, and the BJP got more Catholics elected than the Congress in Goa, he continued with his Marathi or the Hindu Manus formulation. Anything else he knew with the cynical single-mindedness of a brand manager would confuse his customers because that would confuse his brand. And yet, it seems at least once he claims to have been foxed, and that too by a poet journalist. At that dinner, grandson Aaditya, who lately became a minister, grandson Aaditya was prancing around in one of those WWF, show wrestling, World Wrestling Federation, not Wildlife, and World Wrestling Federation, which is now called WWE, not WWF, World Wrestling Entertainment. One of those show wrestling shows that kids watch on TV. He was wearing one of those t-shirts with a picture of a shaven-headed wrestler, I think famous then as Papa Shango. Ye kya idiot Pritish Nandi ka shirt pehen ke ghum raha hai, he said. That is Balasaheb asked his grandson. Ye kya idiot Pritish Nandi ka t-shirt pehen ke ghum raha hai. In fact, he didn't use the word idiot. He used something more strong, something stronger, and something fully unprintable. So he said, "ये क्या? So and so Pritish Nandi का T-shirt पहन के घूम रहा है," and he said it sort of disapprovingly and sneeringly, or let me say with mock contempt and exaggerated disapproval. "He is your party MP." I said, "How can you speak of him so disparagingly?" I was now genuinely confused. Balasaheb was game, however, and he replied, "ठीक है," and I quote him, "ठीक है, idiot तो मैं हूं ना, not Pritish. He took Rajya Sabha from me, and I figured out only much later that he is a Christian." Now, once again, I'm not sure if Balasaheb really was upset with Pritish Nandi on this or not, or whether he was really taken unawares that Pritish Nandi was not a Hindu. I'd rather believe that he knew all the facts about Pritish Nandi, and knowing those facts, he had given him the Rajya Sabha seat. But once again, I can't be sure because he was that kind of a character. It is the legacy of a character like that that people are now fighting for. His own son and his grandson on one side, and people who were loyal to his party at one point but left his party, they've gone away. The fact, however, is that whoever gets to take control of the party, or wherever the bulk of the Shiv Sena vote, committed Shiv Sena vote shifts, there will be no true successor for Balasaheb, the great character of Indian politics.